Alrighty. So we are live here. Oh, whoops. Yeah. We're live. So today we are back with more Mando Time. I really want to apologize to everybody for kind of letting the live build series slide, and to those of you who are commissioning me for stuff. I know I've been a little less forthcoming lately. The truth of the matter is that the holidays hit me kind of hard, and we had a bit of a COVID scare with my folks, so things have been kind of mushing through. Good evening, Melvin. Glad to see you here. But I'm back now. I want to really dig in on some of this stuff, talk about what we've already done, and see if maybe we can't do some sealing and priming for paint on a couple of these pieces, even as we've got more pieces to come down the line. But like I said, tonight I've got the chest and ab pieces right here. So we're going to just dive right in. I've already glued together a little bit of it. You can see I've got this piece here which sort of cups inward. And that I have already achieved by gluing two different pieces. Thank you, Melvin. Two different pieces together with super glue. This is probably the only pieces that we're super gluing together. Other than this piece, which is sort of the keystone that'll fit right in there. And these sort of opposing curves with pretty nice undercuts will be very, very sharp looking once painted up. Went ahead and dropped it because life is paint. Okay. So we're just going to start gluing things together here and see how well this pattern, which I have dutifully put together a couple times now, it goes together. So the thing about the Mando chest is that the angles are pretty precise, actually. So when we dig in on trying to glue some of these edges together, I could say make these 5 layers thick and then just bevel them, but I think that would actually be much more difficult in terms of not just rigging it up, but also making sure that the angles were correct without having to scrap truly so much foam. As it stands, we're working in 6mm because I want these to be lightweight and I want to have enough space inside of them that I can glue, maybe some heftier magnets or even some Velcro to them. So we're going to start with, this will be the left pectoral. And as always, I've given my contact cement a nice stir, and we are going to be applying 2 layers to any particular faces that we're wanting to glue together. That means we can kind of work ahead of ourselves and then go back and start doing the final layers on multiples. So I'll kind of get both pectorals set up here, and then we can kind of go back, start gluing pieces together. And of course, we'll just sort of start getting bigger and bigger here as we go along. One of the things I'm really proud of with these templates is the fact that there's a lot of sweeping faces with very few and or no darts in them. So you'll note that there's several pieces here, but a lot of them either meet at edges or they are sort of layered on or under one another. So there's not going to be a ton of edge joining going on here. This is something I actually talk about a lot if you're new to the live streams. I like to avoid edge-to-edge joins. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say I took a couple pieces of scrap foam here, and I wanted to glue these together, and I wanted a lip between these 2 pieces. Now, I could simply glue them edge to edge and just offset them slightly, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you're not bonding as much face together. Hey, good evening, ODCA props from Mexico. You're not necessarily gluing as much surface area together, so it can be a little weaker, and maybe that's not as consistent because you kind of wibble along the way. So what I like to do is I like to layer my props. I'll add a little extra space on one side or the other, and I'll just layer one on top of the other so that I get a nice clean bond. It's usually a lot stronger. It's usually a lot easier to put together. And I just like it. If I'm doing corner edges, I'm totally fine with corner edges. That just happens. Corners happen. But it's just kind of a quirk of the way that I tend to work. Now let's go ahead and we're gonna bust out. I got a brand new heat gun over the holidays. This is a Black & Decker boy. It's really, really intense, but it definitely handles its higher setting better than my old one. So I'm really excited about it. I've been enjoying using it, even though I don't know how many of you have used heat guns in the past, but heat guns, in my opinion, tend to have like a teething period where they just sort of smell funny. We're not quite out of the teething period for my heat gun yet. Here we go. How is everybody else doing? How was everybody else's holiday? I want to know. I want to make sure everybody's getting by, doing at least moderately okay. Lord knows I've been stressed myself. Not that it wasn't good. Got some cool stuff. Got to spend lots of time with my lovely fiance during that period, which is always a delight for me personally. Got further into shanties, more into sea shanties and drinking songs. I wish they were easier to memorize. I actually came into this live stream a little rushed today because I knew I was going to be a little longer at work. These are actually my work clothes. This is what I normally wear to work, just with my apron thrown over it. So, fun little glimpse into my life there. Usually suspenders and a button down and khakis. Terribly boring. Alright, and as I'm getting ready to glue this together, I'm also going to make sure that the pectoral kind of curves. It has just a very subtle curve to it, because the edges are really sharp, but it is sort of a fun, sort of smoothed over plane. And now, I'm going to demonstrate something that I do a lot, because I don't like using tick marks for most of my gluing edges, which is not to say I don't include them, but here's how I try to make sure that my edges line up even without tick marks. So I sort of start one edge, and I'll take it to sort of a logical point. Like I've got sort of a corner here. And then where it meets the corner, I'm going to stop. I'm going to bend out, and I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to start that corner. Start working towards the other edge. And then I take a point somewhere in the middle. I sort of tap that down. And then I just sort of squeeze the edge together as we go, being sure to try to keep it as clean and as sharp as possible. And in that way, all of our seams line up, but we didn't need to worry about measuring together and cutting together a bunch of weird tick marks. And this looks wonderful. Oh, I'm so happy. Because those edges are lining up very, very cleanly. You can actually see sort of the depth to it there. That is delightful. That is great. I'm going to be putting out these templates and the shoulder templates tonight. My patrons are already starting to see some of the work I'm doing forward. I've got, on the floor here, I've got all traced out both forearms. And this coming week, I'm going to wrap on my templates for the entire lower body, because this will be pretty much the entire upper body done, which is great. But then we'll go through and we'll do the lower body as well, obviously, because we're not just making a Mando costume from the waist up. No. Although that objectively, oh god, now I'm imagining a Mando cosplay where it's like a dad in like striped boxer briefs. It's full Mando dad energy, like striped boxer briefs, but like full armor from the waist up, and like a cup of coffee carrying around the child. That's the Mando cosplay we need. I'm trying too hard here. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we're going through all this trouble to make all this Beskar, and really the perfect cosplay is already out there. There we go. Okay. So we'll get the other side in place here. And then we're actually going to be very nearly done with this. Although we do have one little surprise here. I'm going to kind of let you guys in on how I freehand pattern some things, because there's a piece that sort of goes underneath and behind the chest and the ab pieces. And I did not like the way my Pepakura was behaving on that piece, and I didn't want to remodel it. And it's fairly simple, so I was just going to draft up a replacement part for it on air. I thought that could be really nice. Because I do that quite a lot, actually. Just redrafting a piece if I'm not 100% happy with it. And frankly, I'd encourage everybody to do it, because, you know, hell, if you're not happy with the way something's working, you know, attack that problem. I've had people come to me before and say, this doesn't fit together the way I want. And I'm like, well, how did you want it to fit together? And they'll be like, well, I wanted to glue it together this way. And I'm like, well, glue it together that way. I'm not making it for you. Except right now. This is a commission. Oh, gosh. There we go. That looks really clean. Ugh. With that, we've got the two pectorals. And the beautiful thing about this pattern is after I go through and I'm done, I can always size it out wider a little bit without overall changing the shape very much, which is great. It's a great thing to be able to do for a cosplay. I used to work at Men's Warehouse, for anybody who doesn't know. It was a lot of fun for me. I liked working at Men's Warehouse because working at a clothing store is really fun, because the fashion industry promotes really weird and unhealthy body image stuff. But I will say, fashion retail tries very, very, very hard to make people feel good about their clothes. And I think that one thing that's kind of rubbed off on me that I think is really important is the idea that your clothes should fit you. They should fit well. And fit means a lot of different things for different people. So I believe very strongly in tailoring any given costume or hell, even piece of clothing just to fit you a little nicer. Hell, I mean, like celebrities, when they go out in public, like if they're just wearing a t-shirt and jeans, that's all tailored. You know, if they go through and they edit all the seams and they make sure that everything fits in the way that like marketing wants it to, and that's just the way their world works. And I think that more people could benefit from that in just small ways. Even if that's saying, well, this says, I don't know, XXL, but really it's fitting me perfectly, so I'm just going to wear it. It's not, I don't need to attach a bunch of weird meaning to that. It just fits me. Hello! Good to see you, Koa. I see you changed your name. I am doing a layered join where this sort of flap meets the ab. I'm actually making the ab and the chest one piece because I think it's gonna. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm actually am gonna do the abs and chest as one piece though, because they sit so high on Mando already that the only times you really see it flex are when they're doing really intense stunts, which no offense to my own handiwork, I think really intense stunts might be a lot for this finished piece. It might be too much. I don't know. Okay, so we've got the sort of keystone piece here, and we've got the flaps that sit on top of the abs there. And of course we've got the pectorals. And now we're going to start marrying everything together. This is going to start to really steamroll. Whoa, that was the high heat setting. My bad. For those of you just joining us, we are working on the chest and abs of our Beskar suit. And off to the side here, you can still see our newly finished shoulder pieces, as well as our Mando bucket, which has come a long way. Went through and I was able to get a lot of really strong details in on that. No phones in class. There we go. Let's glue a little bit more together here. There we go. No future was there in London for a poor man's son like me. So I left my home and went to seek my fortune on the sea. I signed aboard a merchant ship bound for the West Indies, and 6 weeks in we packed into the winds of piracy. There were sails on the horizon, and we tried to make a run. And when we saw that black flag, then our running it was done. And when those pirates boarded us, they told us one by one, you can die or join our crew, me boys. Time flies when you're having rum. Time flies when you're having rum, me boys. Time flies when you're having rum. When you're sailing under the black flag and you're firing all your guns. When you take a Spanish treasure ship, you defy by the rule of thumb. The voyage will be over soon enough. Time flies when you're having rum. Ooh, what is going on here? Oh, it's called It's called Time Flies When You're Having Rum. It's I think it's by the Jolly Rogers, or no, Pirates for Sale, SAIL. That's what it is. When I made my Mando piece, I connected the ab piece to the chest piece with some elastic straps. So when you sit down, the chest. See, I thought about this too, but I think what's going to happen, actually, I'm not going to go for squish. What I'm actually hoping to have happen is that there's just a subtle give to the overall thing, so that when you move, it doesn't compress, because I don't even want it to do that. I don't want it to like bend so that like a crease forms. I actually want it to just kind of float. Kind of like what happens when I bend down in this, where this sort of floats up a little bit, because that's not actually going to reach like neck area. There we go. Oh, we're going to heat gun this a little bit. With a pistol to my head, and then my choice was all too clear. I took leave of that merchant ship and became a buccaneer. But if the truth be told, I joined them for the promise of adventure, and gold. The quartermaster handed me. How do you make sure your armor fits on you? Great question. I'm going to use the royal you here and say, like, you, like anybody. Scale. Scale's important. Because scaling is important for you, because you're going to encounter two, like, philosophical, shall we say, ideas here. You are either... Oh, hang on, whoops. Sorry, I need to verify something real quick. Yes, sorry. Because when I get an expendable t-shirt and then cover it in duct tape and cut it down. No, I understand what you're saying, where you like make patterns off of like clothes that you're sacrificing for like the greater cause gods. And that's totally an acceptable way to do it. I tend to use programs and things like Pepakura that they force you to kind of work with a very specific mathematical kind of language. But basically, when I go through and I scale things, I scale them not only for my shape, but I try to keep things relatively in proportion with one another. So if I need to oversize the bicep because I got meaty arms, I'm not going to keep the same size forearm even if it fits on me, because it's going to look weird next to the bicep. So you have to end up like tapering the forearm and whatnot. So when we talk about making sure things fit you, sometimes that means changing the way a thing actually looks overall. Like if my head was just super big, I might actually need to make all the other pieces a little oversized for me and pad them out, because otherwise it's going to look really weird. There we go. There we go. That looks great. There we go. Looks pretty good. And you can see I've got these undercuts here that are making it give those subtle shapes. So now what I need to do is take all of these pieces together, glue that to there, and midsection there, and then you can see the gap in between here that I need to fill with a new part. Oh my god, my dog. Also, how long do you generally take on your projects? I made Sky Cutter in like 2 days, but I'm making some Soul Edge right now, but it's taking me like 7 weeks. You know, I think that really depends. Like I sort of led with this video, I've been going through some stuff. So when you get in those funks, it can be hard for all sorts of reasons to make sure that you're meeting certain kinds of deadlines that you're used to. I generally, if something's really uncomplicated, like I can get multiple things done in a week if I'm feeling like I have the bandwidth for it. For instance, this week, I've made a significant push to get our contest winner, Justin Holt's helmet done, as well as I've had Etsy sales for 2 of these Dr. Fate helmets that I do make. They're under $100, I think. But like I'm gotten these done as well. And of course now I'm in the middle of this Beskar, and I'm working on a Cyberpunk arm and a Doctor Doom helmet for another guy. So I'm a little lost in the sauce right now, but I'm actually getting a lot done. So this week has just been crazy productive. I think it also depends on like what you can get done at the same time, because sometimes when you're working, you can, you know, be doing more than one thing at once. Like I edit all these things together as though I sort of just barrel through one project, but really I'm working on like 4 or 5 of them. And at some point I will just edit the footage together from those particular ones. Trixia, I see. Speaking of which, I just finished my Cylon helmet for my dad, and I got that video up, so if you guys haven't seen it yet, you should check that out, because that's going to be really important for this build, actually, because that chromey finish looks really good with the graphite, and that's definitely the way we're going with this. What's your Etsy shop? Oh, it's Etsy.com. I have an Etsy shop. I think it's... I thought it was in the description of this one. Hang on. It might... Oh my gosh, we just hit 700 subscribers. Ah! On stream. I don't have something really cool to do for... Ah! We did it! Ah! Let me see here. I'm going to go as we're live. Yeah, my Etsy store is in the description of this live stream. I don't know the exact link for it, but I sell a lot of old builds. I do sell some of the things I make for the channel. Because not all of these things are commissions. A lot of these things are things that I either want to make or I've seen a lot of demand for, so I was like, I'll take a stab at it. Like our Stormtrooper templates. We just finished our Stormtrooper templates. I reposted them again to Facebook today because I know some people kind of missed that. But I was not paid in any way to make those templates. That was something that I saw a lot of people requesting. And I was like, well, I think it's time to make some Stormtrooper templates. I felt so bad, actually. I had a... Yeah, it is. Hooray! Thank you, guys. Big celebrations. 700 subscribers. Yeah, I'm hoping... like I said, we're kind of barreling towards 1,000 here, which, for those of you who don't know, is kind of like the lower cap barrier of trying to monetize. And I'm really hoping that, you know, we can sort of start to really grow the channel out more, and, you know, with a little bit of money helps me, you know, maybe hire an editor or something for these videos so that I can spend a little extra time making rather than just working on the content itself, if that makes sense. At 1K? No, you don't get a play button at 1K. I don't think. I think you get like whatever YouTube verified is. You know, okay, so this... Okay, I'll let you guys in on a little secret, which is one of the videos I'm working on right now is a series of like 3 videos that are not just like my Pep Tuesday, but are actually just the videos for the basic understanding of how to use the program and print it out. And yeah, part of that is probably going to wind up being a basic cutting video. Because I do understand that I kind of skipped that. I kind of went straight to, I want to make this thing, so I'm going to make that thing. And I know some of this is redundant knowledge, too. In a very real way, I stand on the shoulders of giants who have sort of helped me along my way. But, you know what? At some point, I should just say, I'm doing my own thing, and I really want to help people do that same thing. Because I know I do some things just a little different than everybody else does, frankly. What I use for priming? All sorts of things. Generally, I use Plastidip. I use Plastidip for the most part on all of my builds. Because I find that it's just the easiest to work with. Gray Plastidip, in my opinion, is in fact the best Plastidip. I don't know what it is about the pigment, but it just relaxes way better than any of the other ones I've experienced. Black is pretty good, but it doesn't tend to smooth over if you overcoat accidentally. And white, I find, is just not very good for what we're doing. It tends not to smooth down. Okay, here we go. Sorry, we're just putting the pectorals to the sort of keystone centerpiece here. The captain told me, son, us gentlemen of fortune live life fast and on the run. So step right up and take your share. Time flies when you're having run. There we go. Yeah, I mostly use Plastidip though. I do employ the use of Mod Podge and Quick Seal quite frequently. I will actually mix Mod Podge and Quick Seal together because they are both water soluble before they are cured. So you can kind of mix them together and create like a very flexible sealant, which I know is very hacker man of me, but it does work quite well. And then we're going to glue this edge to that edge. There we go. All right, now we're going to glue the abs to the chest, and then we'll create that piece in the middle. You know, I'm actually quite happy because I was a little nervous this might be a little less structured than I wanted. You know, like it might be a little flimsy. But I'm actually feeling a lot of structure to this right now. Because like if I tilt it up this way, it doesn't want to like bend so much. Like I can wibble it, but that's I think more a function of it being lightweight, not it being weak, shall we say. Why, hello there, Daniel. You know, I felt really bad. I actually had a really, not negative, but kind of a disappointing interaction with a person on the page recently. Somebody reached out to our email. I won't say who. Really fast. I just want to see. Oh yeah, sure. Here, actually, I'll plunk this guy down front and center. Actually, he's Boop. Oh, you know what? I'm a real YouTuber with like real YouTuber light stands and things. Hang on, we'll just ta-da. It looks pretty good. I'm really quite happy with the helmet. There's not really a lot that I'm going to change about this. Turned out really nice. What was I saying? Oh, there's a guy that I was talking with recently who really wants me to make a very specific Star Wars helmet. And I was just kind of like, well, if you want me to bump up a build guide, you know, it's basically commission. But he had no money, and he kind of ragged on me for not really wanting to just do it for free because he asked. And I was like, well, I spend a lot of time on these things. It's kind of a lot. Coke or Pepsi? Throw it in the chat. I am 100% on the side of Coke because I'm correct. But feel free to tell me how you feel. Thank you very much. I'm actually really sorry. I don't know if that's just a username or if I just don't know how to pronounce that name. But I really appreciate the kind words. Alright. Go ahead and glue that together. There we go. See, now we're really getting somewhere there. Amazing. So now you can see this thing is really coming together. And per the client's request, there is root beer. You solved it, Melvin. Per the client's request, though, there's a little bit more breadth across the chest on this one. But the basic templates still do this quite well. Yeah, no, I'm really liking the way this looks here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do two things before we wrap on this part tonight. The first of which is we're actually going to put a little bit of hot glue in some of these grooves to stiffen them up a little bit more so they don't come undone. And then we're going to make a piece that'll just sort of insert under here. It's not actually going to glue to here, so it still gives the impression of plate armor, but it will still rest up under there. There we go. This is actually the other. This is the other big toy I got for Christmas. This is, simply put, the nicest hot glue gun I have ever used. I don't know if you guys use a ton of hot glue in your builds. I use a sparing amount, shall we say, on my builds. But I have never experienced a hot glue gun that doesn't drip. And I don't know what it is about the construction of this thing, but it doesn't drip. This is the Surebonder dual temp mega thunder yada yada. But I also really like the It's gonna sound very silly, but like it's like a new hot glue gun, but this trigger feels really good. I can actually like grab it with most of my hand, so I'm not just like wearing out one finger. It's nice. The little things, you know? Actually, I have to come over here because, little known facts, this is where I keep all my hot glue. Just in a big box. Because I tend to get everything at an industrial size just because I go through so much of it, you know? The one thing I haven't switched to getting in like an industrial quantity yet that I really should is super glue, like just cyanolite I think is what it is in like technical terms. I have not made that move to like my own bottle for my own like unending supply of super glue, and I really should because, you know, I go through so much of it. Ugh. So while we're waiting on that, I suppose I could talk a little bit about these shoulder pieces, which I finished off stream last time. And the really cool thing about these is truly how solid the shape is. Like, that shape, this bow, did not require a ton of heat forming. For whatever reason, and I'm not sure what the exact, like, nature of the opposing curves is here, but once I glued these pieces onto it, like the overlays, it sort of just bowed into that shape, which is great because it's not just round, it's actually like cupped inward, like the shoulder. And they look really good, and I can just sort of set them on my shoulder. But they've got a really nice effect. They make me look really beefy, which is cool. And also something I've noticed about the way they costume Pedro Pascal, because it's still spoiler alert, but like it's been weeks now. If you haven't watched it, the season finale of season 2, he takes off his helmet at one point, and Pedro Pascal just looks jacked in that suit. And I think it's the suit. not to sort of rag on Pedro Pascal, but I think it's the suit that does it, because it's just so... He just looks so beefy. Beefy boy. Alright, I'm just putting a little hot glue in the V-grooves and the outer undercuts, just so that I can sort of bend it there and have it stay there. I could use contact cement for this, but I actually think I need a little bit of bulk to that glue. I don't think it's going to be face to face exactly, because I'm not a god when it comes to undercuts. I just like to use them. There are many much better than I, frankly. Oh boy. What else is everybody else working on? I know I'm kind of out here hanging on the Mando and Cyberpunk stuff right now, but you know, what's on everybody else's workbench? There's a lot of cool nerdy stuff happening right now. I've seen some really cool Wonder Woman stuff popping up lately. Ugh. Okay, let's see here. All right, that's pretty dry now. There we go. And you can really see that edge popping out here. And we want to really define this outer bow as well. So we're going to open that up and pour a little extra hot glue in there as well. Go. We'll do that at both sides sort of at once here, just to kind of speed things along. Oh, and there's one more undercut at the bottom here, because there is like sort of a lip to the bottom edge. It's little details like that in shaping that will really sell this final piece. Because on some level it's about accuracy, but on another level it's about making this not appear like it's sheet material. I think that's one thing that people talk about a lot when they mean to say things like they have trouble making foam not look like foam, and I think it's because what they're actually fighting is the appearance of sheet material being a sheet that you sort of cut and shaped, rather than being, say, a three-dimensional object. You know, a piece of armor, a suit of blank. You know? There we go. Pop that in. For those of you who are just joining us, we are working on the Beskar chest and abs. We've got the shoulders and the helmet on standby here. Alright, so now that all that hot glue is in place, here's what we're going to do. We need to make a piece that will fit under here and slot up to there without actually being sort of glued in place. So what we're going to do is get some paper. I'm actually going to sort of lay this down on the table, and to some degree I'm eyeballing it, because what I want to do is sort of vaguely trace the inner edge of these shapes so that I know where it needs to be sort of visible, if you will. Oh, does this pen not work? Oh, there we go. I need to know where the outer edge of, like, my layering needs to occur. And at the top, I need to know where it'll still be visible to. And then I also need to sort of vaguely define where this undercut is, because that's going to have to kind of run up this piece. And then, of course, it's going to be symmetrical. So, we've got sort of a vague shape on here. I am going to better define that real quick. I'm not even really going to use a ruler for this. I'm basically just going to freehand it onto the page. We're going to dotted line that undercut, because Pepicure is the only patterning language I know anymore. And then I'm going to add about 3/4 of an inch to the upper edge, because we want that to sort of fit up under there. And then we're going to add a little less around the sides, and probably only about 1/4 inch at the bottom, where we're just sort of layering it over itself. And then we're just going to create a fold line across the middle of this, because we want this to be a symmetrical piece. And I'm realizing now that I don't actually have enough paper that direction, so I'm actually just going to flip it over on my phone. Because reasons. Alright, the Emperor has no clothes. This is what half of my templates look like. Just weird pen marks hastily scratched onto paper before I turn them either into Pepicura or other things. Can I ask, is there any chest armor for your Dr. Doom helmet? I actually don't. Okay, so I think I have bought like 3D files for it, but I've never made the actual templates for it. I just haven't. I think it's also because the Dr. Doom helmet that I made was from Fortnite. And in Fortnite, he doesn't really have like chest armor. He has a cloak. So I don't think I have one. How close are you? How close am I to what? That's such a vague question. I would actually like to answer it. What are you what are you trying to ask me there, Landon? Is there a piece around here big enough? This is not big enough. Sorry, I'm just trying to raid my scrap bin real quick to see if I've got anything that will actually be large enough for this. I might make it in 2 pieces. Oh, to finishing the armor. I would say pretty close. Like I said earlier, I've actually got most of the upper body armor done, or like in varying states of done, including the very complicated gauntlets, which I'm hoping to talk a little bit about next time once they're, you know, finished. Yeah, I'd say I'm saying a couple weeks away from finished with this, and that's with other things on my table. That is with other things going on. But I've got most of the armor templates done. The rest of the armor templates are going to be fully out to my patrons within this week, hopefully. Because, you know, that's what they get. They get my stuff just a little bit in advance. Where's my knife? There it is. Here it is. So let's do one side. It's okay if these edges aren't entirely perfect, mostly because we're hiding them. So it doesn't... Oh no, my knife did the thing again. Those of you who've been with me for a while, you'll have seen this. This knife has this weird tendency to eject my blades while I'm working. There we go. There we go, just enough space on there. Gather round and drink with me to love and life and what may be, with the sun and the sky in your heart, carefree. 'Cause it's a long way down, it's a long way down, it's a long way down, it's a long way down to the bottom of the sea. I won't lie, it's been nice to pick up production again lately, just given how crazy things have been here in the States. This has been some solid escapism, I'll tell you that. I think I can actually just hot glue this edge together in the middle here, because I'm a wild man. And also, like, I have confidence that I can make this seem straight. Here we go. There we go. And then just in terms of size, that's perfect. Because what's going to happen is we'll just contact cement that along the bottom edge here. Well, hot down. Our time here is almost up. I'm trying to decide what I want to do here. I think we'll leave this where it's at. This looks really great though, and like you can really see the Mando-iness of it. You set it up next to the helmet there. I think for just the last 10 minutes, we'll chill a little bit. I'm gonna pull out my rotary tool. This here is a stone grinding bit, and we're just going to take a couple gentle passes at the helmet, because as beautiful as this is, I think that there's a little bit more that can be done. R31 Studios had a really great post the other day, as we're on Facebook, that I really agree with, and it's something that I had been doing without ever like quantifying it, which is that you should always, unless you're going for like a very square rectangular look, knock down the edges of your build just a little bit, because it will help smooth and homogenize between pieces. So I'm going to knock down around this edge in the cheek detail here. Not the inner edge, because that's just an undercut, but the outer edge. I'm probably going to try and smooth just a little bit up here. Smooth around the upper edge of the ear. And then I'm going to try to sand down this helmet, this dome seam, because it's really the only visible seam that's not like an edge like this. So let's get to it. By the way, I love the Cylon helmet. Oh, thank you. Can't wait to make it. Thanks, all. Thank you very much, Tammy Taylor. I really appreciate that. I try really hard just to kind of be a little bit of a bumbly positive here. It's been a weird year, and we're off to the start of another weird year. So, I'm just glad that there's a little bit of fun here. And I'm glad you like the Cylon, because I kind of stuck my neck out on that one. I know it was kind of outside of my normal wheelhouse, but it wound up looking really, really pretty. And it's gonna help out these builds. It's gonna help out this Beskar for sure. There we go. That really helps on these cheek details here. Makes everything look really, really sharp. Alright, and we're just gonna touch up the inside of this, because that's gonna need to be filled across the front there. And then I'm going to just gently let the Dremel itself sort of pull itself along the upper edge here, and just gingerly knock it down. Can sandpaper replace a Dremel? Short answer, yes, easily. It's just going to take you a lot longer. And I think I've kind of had this conversation before, which is people are like, you know, can you swap in simple hand tool for power tool? The answer is always going to be yes. Almost always going to be yes. My dad did love the helmet, by the way, Tammy. He really likes it, and that makes it worth it, frankly. But sandpaper can, of course, replace a Dremel. I've seen a lot of people achieve some really, really good seams on, like, domes with just sandpaper. Especially finer grit sandpaper, like wet sanding grade sandpaper. I do not do that because I have a Dremel. And I don't need to, so I don't. Here we go. Just knock that down slightly. Try to keep everything from getting too layered a look. There we go. And now, to do the dome, I'm actually going to pull out a different stone grinding bit. Because I'm very nervous about this dome. I want this dome to look very pretty. So this stone grinding bit is rounded on the top, so there's not like a square edge that I can accidentally dip into the piece. So hopefully this should be exactly what I need to get a very smooth. I'm gonna extend that just a little bit. Here we go. There we go. You can kind of see how it leaves behind sort of a trail. We're still going to need to fill it, but now the edges actually line up. They were just a little bit off from one another before. Which is pretty normal on a seam like this. It really is. Because we can just go through and do exactly what I'm doing right now, where we smooth it out. We just smooth it out. You know, that's true. I've thought about getting a flex shaft for my Dremel. I've just never really felt the need to. It's just never something I've done. And that's not to say they're bad. I just haven't done it. I've invested in other tools lately, like I got a belt sander up there now that I pull down for some things. Like if this helmet was just perfectly smooth over and didn't have this fin, I actually might have just taken the belt sander down and just gingerly sort of smoothed it on there, rather than pulling out the rotary tool, because ultimately it's going to be easier to move this around than to move this around. Not so with a flex shaft, but there you are. There we go. Look at that. That is so much smoother now. And because I use the stone bit, because I use the stone bit now, I am very fortunate in that also sort of heat seals in its wake. So I shouldn't need to do too much more to that. I might heat this up and push down just a little. But for the most part, this looks really good. Ta-da! And it's got sort of the dip in right here. And you can actually see that. I have a template right here for the visor. Which is going to go in very soon. Very, very soon here. I want to thank everybody who showed up for showing up. This has been a really nice live stream. I had so much fun with this. This is a really great build, and we were able to get a ton done tonight. So hopefully we come back next week and we have just barreled forward. We're like well into the lower body, because then it'll be mostly painting, and I'm hoping we can do some graphite finishing on stream, because that's really what you all came to see, the chromy boys. But for now, fully finishing armor. Congrats on the 700 subs. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And big thanks to all of my patrons. If you yourself want to become a patron, if you like these builds, you can become a patron for, I want to say, as little as $3. And you just get your name at the ends of my videos, and yeah, and you get all these templates like a week, or in this case, like seemingly like a month in advance. So, you know, I'll leave that up to you. But thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Landon. Thank you, Melvin, Tammy, everybody, Mega Geekbot. Bye.